Hi, Priyanka. Thank you so much for making the time to speak to me today. How are you doing?
Darusha, it's always a delight to be speaking with you. I'm doing good. We are surviving another wave after wave, of
Right.
speculations and rug pulls and whatnot. But I do believe there's still a $800 trillion opportunity with real world asset tokenization. So we're
Yeah,
all sticking here. Yeah,
right. We are here to stay. So
right.
that I think that I think something or the other keeps happening in Web3, especially because we are truly very dynamic, the entire industry and the ecosystem. But just to give our viewers some context, can you tell us a little about how you got into Web3? Because initially, obviously, you were not a part of Web3 and you were working in several MNCs, right? So can you tell us a little about your journey, and then we can talk more about what you're building currently?
Absolutely, Tarusha. So, always been with the education space right since my college days. I've been like going to government schools, trying to get them, get the students into the digital world wide web. So that itself was a big deal because in a country that we come from, like India, there's the socio-economic disparity is right up our face. And
Right.
I always began through those government schools educating just a basic, website creation and whatnot, so that the students, especially the girls who are coming from shelter homes, I know this kind of goes into a very philosophical background where it was about ushering economic pathways for girls who are in these shelter homes. I was to give them a life of dignity where, hey, look, you build this website, do your freelancing, at least come out of there and you earn your own money. So, having said that, I was always plugged in. I got my job in the US 2013, and then ever since then, I've been in the US. The pandemic brought me to India, and I was like, hey, look, I've always been in education. Why am I not doing something radical in this space when really it was even that United Nations moment that happened in New York where a lot of delegates there where they saw something in me which I couldn't see then. And I'm really glad that when you have that kind of nudge, from the diplomats of UN coming, you better do something about it. Um,
Right.
so that it was always in my head. And when I came to India in the pandemic, that's another story for another day. But I was still recouping from my breathing issues, and it was quite too much for me to get back into corporate, especially considering how much disruption there was. So I was sitting at home and tinkering with how do we bring immersive education to more
Hmm.
students out there who zone out on Zoom, who have language barriers, who like rather playing games versus like consuming voracious text from our education
Books, right.
systems, um, right, curriculum. So that's where actually I was building these 3D avatars. So not many people know, like, I'm into doodling, and I always like tinker around with the latest 3D tools. And thank goodness for the times we live in, I don't need like a media agency or like a gaming
Right.
agency.
Hmm.
So that 3D avatar got picked up by a Bored Ape Yacht Club member. This was in the peak boom. This was during 2021. And I believe, that's when I was like, hey, look, why is this Bored Ape Yacht Club member sitting in California picking up my 3D avatar? And like, that's how I earned my first Ethereum. And I was
Hmm.
like, there's no looking back. Wait, if I could do this, the girls could do this. So I was like, let's tinker around. And, we were trying to get all of the creative um, media assets onto Web3. And with that time, we were minting on OpenSea and,
Hmm.
seeing how we can usher economic pathways. But it was very much of a barrier because I think even up to that point, there were like $1 million of rug pull happening left, right, and center. And I was like, this deals with young girls, so I can't get them into the space just yet.
Right.
So that's how it technically began. But I do have to mention that when I was at PepsiCo 2017 Texas, I remember there was a IBM Hyperledger conference going on within the premises, and I was very curious, like what's happening with Hyperledger and supply chain optimization. And
Hmm.
that's when I got to know that, hey, look, it goes beyond just the DeFi space where you can actually plug in. Blockchain can be a formidable database for even the, Web2 folks to just migrate to Web3.
Yeah.
Just knowing that you can have, the best of security and all of those blockchain principles, right? So that was one thing that also kept me going and researching. So as much as I was plugged into the education space, I think somewhere my supply chain background also led me doing the farmer profitability labs, with Kratos Innovation Labs. We built a direct market linkage for farmers in India to sell their produce on that particular marketplace so that there's elimination of middlemen. And this was all on L1 at that point. Again, this was a pilot, but I do believe that we will be taking forward. Of course, now we are seeing the emergence of ZK rollups, and we just have to migrate the solutions as well. So let's see how that goes. But that's pretty much a summary.
Wow, wonderful. That's been quite a journey. So you were working in cybersecurity primarily with these Fortune 500 companies. And what my research tells me is that you kind of founded the AI-powered skill Reco engine, which was under Amazon Education. Is that correct?
That's right, Darusha. I would want to say co-founded, maybe, or I'll have to put it properly in my LinkedIn somewhere. Yes, so this happened exactly at the time when I was saying the 3D educator, model that I was building. That was pretty much happening at the same time when I met my team. So we met on this entrepreneurship forum. 2021, we launched a NLP recommendation engine for 50,000 skills mapped to 7,000 jobs. And this was one career pathway that, the students can get to. You give in your inputs, what year you are, what subjects you like, when are you passing out, and you get a curated career pathway. So we felt that
so it's like career counseling, but like completely in a virtual manner without. Okay, yeah.
You said it. So that actually got picked up by Amazon Education, and that kind of set us on a good path.
Understood.
But then definitely we were seeing how to build the brand better, and that's when 100 Girls in Blockchain actually happened. As if there's one skill you need to be learning in 2021, it better be blockchain programming.
Right,
and Solidity, and consensus algorithms and non-fungible tokens. So that's how it actually began. And the first pitch was actually with the professor of blockchain, ISB, Professor Bhagwan Chaudhary. If you're listening to this, we are ever so grateful. And he was like, Priyanka, you have to do this. Like, there is a need in the market where you have to level set the playing field. And technically, every room we entered, Darusha, I'm sure you were one of the pioneering women at that point, starting at 2011. It would have taken so much from you, so I applaud you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, in those days, I think even now, I think the gender disparity is huge, right? So obviously there were not many women in this space at that point. And very honestly, I think even I stumbled into Web3. I think it was more of curiosity than anything else. Because, and this is a story that I have repeated so many times, it's old, but we started with mining. We had a data center, and that is how we got into the Web3 space. It wasn't even called Web3 then. So it was just then back there. And I don't think that we were also taking it that seriously at that point, right? It was just something that we were doing with all of this hardware. But, the more we've come to understand the technology, the more, our commitment towards the ethos of decentralization, and more the reason why I'm here after all of these cycles and rug pulls, as you put it. That's the reason that keeps me coming back. So now back to your journey. Like, if you had to say right now what you're doing is phenomenal. I think this is the kind of work that I like applauding, because I think I talk a lot about how there is a disparity, and it shouldn't actually come down to the gender. It should just be about merit. But then, for merit also to actually be, or to
Yeah.
just have a level playing field, there has to be some effort, right, at the grassroots level, which is what you are doing. So more props to you. And I think what you're doing is absolutely wonderful. But if you had to perhaps, tell a school-going girl about what you're doing and how to get involved, what would be your, very short elevator pitch without any jargon so that they immediately get it and they sign up?
Wow, this is a tough one considering everything you say from consensus algorithm to NFTs. It feels like we're talking in sci-fi.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're a school-going girl, um, I would want to say that you want to build the next product which is secure, immutable, and basically track and trace all of your transactions. Then this would be the one technology you should be having as a foundation if you want to get into tech or build on tech. So that's one thing. If I can just like simply put it, if you want a secure product, if you want to build trust, this is the place to be in. So especially in countries, like ours, emerging economies also where there's a lot of trust deficit, technologies like blockchain can completely disrupt the space. So that's something that I really, appreciate, and that's what's keeping me into the space. But I would like to say that, hey, look, you want to be independent in life. Like, it's not about just getting rich; it's about getting rich and free. So that's why blockchain as well. But you would need to build passive income pathways where you don't have to depend on volatile job markets, especially now you hear AI taking away your jobs.
Right.
So come to our DAO, get your skill to one coins. You technically trade them for different skills that you have, and we will show you how to build those economic pathways. So that's technically how the entire skill DAO, which was founded on like a jobber, builder, and the builder, jobber, and the player economy, where the players are technically the ones who come and build, and the builders technically are the ones who are building the platform, which is for you to have a secure transaction, for you to have NFT based incentives where these NFTs can be then traded for any kind of skill incentives that you want within the pathways that we have right now. And then those incentives will push you into the next pathway of economic freedom. Yeah.
Awesome. So
So that's
basically,
pretty much.
if we had to like put it in one sentence, there are two levels to it. Perhaps, you are like Khan Academy, but for blockchain and AI, so that, young girls can get skilled and they can up level their skill set so that they can remain relevant in the workforce, even years down the line. So that would be level one. And the level two aspect is you're saying that they've been designed in ways which are pathways that actually lead to financial independence or freedom in some way. So for the second pathway, have you collaborated with firms? Is that how you provide the opportunities to these girls who have recently acquired all of these skills using your platform?
Yeah, absolutely, Tarusha. So there is a wide variety of emergent tech toolkit that we provide. So if you want to come build chatbots, if you want to build automation agents, you want to just mint your art with us. We have different layers to this. So we use a platform called virtualness.io because the entire technology is baked into it. And the best thing is we can get a lot of Web2 natives into Web3 because they don't have to have the hassle of MetaMask wallet installation or just all of these hops that you need to take. I think Web3 is just waiting for its grandma moment. Like I think Mark Cuban famously announced.
Right.
So the more UI UX we simplify, I think the more folks can get in. And I believe Ton is doing the best job at it. If there's any mass adoption happening, I do see it coming from Ton. all I'm saying is that look, you come, you pick your skill. We tell you how you can earn the best, economic pathway based on where you are in life. You start with like a side hustle income, and then we slowly see how you can get into like full-time jobs. Be it a Web3 strategist or be it like a DevRel, we'll be able to groom you that way. But there are three hobs that you need to take. One is they do have like a coach of assessment, and then they get into like a holistic interview process. And the
Okay.
third is based on the track record, whichever projects they've created so far. Then we assess on where to put them. In fact, Arusha, 70% of the folks that come to us are mostly low code, no code. So
Right.
we teach them like in 1 week in how to make a chatbot, and you technically, have a skill coupon minted. You trade the skill coupon with Virtualness platform, which has like clients from 75 countries, and then you
Hmm.
don't have to crack the distribution that way. So
Wow.
the skill incentives, the verifiable credentials that you get are coming from the platform.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
brilliant. So, the platform sounds brilliant. You have these avatars, you have these pathways, and you have like you've kind of made it into a clear path. Like, usually what happens is people want to start from somewhere and they are very unclear about what to do because the internet tends to bombard you with too much information.
Mm,
That
yeah.
that kind of creates a paralysis, and you're stuck in the planning mode, and you're thinking, okay, let me just get all of the information out there before I can make an
Yeah.
informed choice and perhaps feel more confident, to go after the opportunity that I really want to. So that it's good that, you've kind of taken away all of that extra baggage and cleared a very clear path for these individuals that, okay, this is how you can go about doing these XYZ things. And even if you're coming from a no tech background, we'll still upskill you and put you in a place where, you feel confident to go after the opportunities that you want. So nothing like it. This is sounding better and better the more I hear about it. And
Thank you.
I would love to understand, how are you reaching out to these students? Like, are you collaborating with schools, colleges? Like, how are you reaching out to these potential girls who can use the
Good.
platform?
Absolutely. So this journey was so difficult for us. As much as it sounds so streamlined at the moment, it took us at least 1.5 years to figure out. And
Right.
by the time we got stable, Tarusha, the Gen AI hit us like nothing else.
Yeah.
And now the students want to go on the Gen AI path. So it's becoming a double challenge for me to help them retain on blockchain.
Hmm.
But having said that, our target audience is 17 to 21-year girls. We
Okay.
especially feel this is a very vulnerable age. Coming from, especially in India, I know things haven't changed so much because we focus on tier two, tier three. There is
Okay.
such untapped potential out there. Um,
Agreed.
so so they need to technically come on board through their colleges. We
Okay.
have like a partner college network. And then, as I was saying, this 3-tier assessment takes place. Who
Hmm.
can't crack, we are getting them on the weekend, Saturday, huddles where, in fact, it's a very virtuous cycle of consensus at the point. The old batch kind of teaches the new batch. So it
Nice.
kind
Very
of goes
nice.
it's not as streamlined, but we're getting there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
partner college network, and the first. In fact, I just want to highlight this. Our very first batch was with high schoolers in
Hmm.
the state of Telangana, and thanks to VHub for that. But the first question I remember that day, and shout out to Ashia Rao from Illuminated DAO. She gave us the opportunity to come on board and be the hackathon partners there. 3 months of that, and the girls were like, ma'am, how can we do money laundering with crypto? Like, these were high school girls. And I was like, this is not the their imagination was on fire. They had no
Hmm.
guardrails. And when you come up with these kind of questions, because you're probably watching a lot of movies where they see money laundering happening, I was like,
Right.
this is first and last batch we're doing with high schoolers. So yeah, that was quite a freaky moment. So just for your listeners and audience, 70 to 21 is a good age to start. So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much the
I do
gist of
think,
it.
and what you mentioned, I think it's a very important part that it's an age where you're very vulnerable because you are just getting out of school, perhaps, and or you're stepping into junior college, and you're confused, right? And you don't know what path to sort of take, and then there are hormones, and just
You
being
said
that
it.
young, right? So all of that, I think. As you said, it's a vulnerable age and it's a good time to perhaps keep them busy and give them a direction because that is also the age where you have tremendous amounts of energy to really get anything done.
Yeah. You said it. You said it because some of these girls have taken menstrual pad, campaigns into like a menstrual DAO.
Hmm.
They've like gone
Wow.
physically into these folks and onboarded the folks from Bihar. Like imagine girls from Bihar in these government schools are on a sanitary pad now who are
Wow.
seamlessly getting, the kits technically that comes in from the NGO. It's still Tarusha being exploited by middlemen where they sell it on eBay or
Right.
whichever side, right? So that track and trace mechanism, we taught the girls, how you can actually have like a proof of identity, log in and just check whether that allocated kit has come to you or not.
Hmm.
And that's one secure way. There was this other girl, Renika Reddy. So the sanitary Dow, Hitisha Nayak, shout out to you. The arts, right? Like this amazing girl, she was like, we need to get all the Indian dying art forms on NFTs because that's how we save our legacy. So this is like a 16, 17-year-old girl trying to save Indian art forms, which was
Hmm.
brilliant. And we hunted all these amazing Patachitra artists. In fact, that Patachitra art, which is probably has a legacy of like 100 years old, it's on chain, and that technically got us
Wow.
a lot of
Nice.
visibility at the global platform also. So not only is she solving for the artist who gets like, he probably is being ripped off by the art gallery, but then with the
Yeah.
blockchain, right? Like he's now getting profits out of that. So
Yeah.
that's one big way I think the girls are able to see that, oh, look, this is how you build trust in the economy and
Yeah.
it can be inclusive with grassroots.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's true. When you see it firsthand, I think that kind of changes the way you are perhaps approaching a problem or your deep set beliefs. So that is absolutely true. What you just said. Can you now like zooming out a little bit? You've mentioned that you discovered your ikigai during tech consulting stints, right? So and you've kind of touched upon that in your intro as well. That you had all of these people tell you that okay, this is the direction you should be heading in, and that was the aha moment for you. But personally, can you elaborate on this discovery a little bit and how this discovering your ikigai has influenced your entrepreneurial journey so far?
Oh, yeah, that's such a brilliant question, actually. And I really, if there are girls listening to this, young girls, please take extra time to reflect with yourself on what your ikigai is so you don't get disappointed in life later. I really
Yeah.
wish I discovered blockchain in 2011, but here we go. So, this was, I think it started a little bit, in India itself, where I remember getting my first job in the US from India. And I was probably not one of the best developers there. Like we had a team of 250 developers. But then they always saw me looking at the problems from the big picture angle. And I remember working for Novartis at that point of time, and we were huddling up to see how to optimize for clinical data trial workflow automation. And I always put myself in the shoes of the research scientist and like see how we can build better versus like what is the cutting edge technology we can plug in and put it. So anybody from those 250 developers could have gotten the opportunity to go actually work with the research scientists in New Jersey. But because they saw me going that extra leap with, talking to these research scientists and, the formulators, they were like, hey, look, Priyanka might be the right person to do this. We should send her maybe because she will also bring us a lot of business back. So I was like, oh wow, is that how they see me? And that was one point. And then second, when I came to New Jersey, I also had the stint with, from New Jersey, I went to Washington, D.C. for World Bank. It was like a 6-month gig. And I remember there was knowledge officers. They work with strategic officers who deploy funds in emerging economies. And technically, because I knew the Indian subcontinent so well, I would never immerse them with like what is the best technical solution that I can bring to you, versus how you can probably get like water better, like water supply better, right? And that way you find a human first engineering solution, which actually provides you a better pathway. In fact, it's becoming increasingly important now, considering AI is able to do 65% of your coding. Tech Claude 3.5 Sonnet does that beautifully. So that human first engineering, I think, was like the ikigai moment. And I knew that, look, every part, right? Research scientists, there was a certain education required. These strategic officers, there was a certain education required. So somewhere I was able to demystify the tech in a way that they understood, okay, look, this is how we go about the architecture. This is how we implement it. So I think that's where I realized. And then PepsiCo happened, and that was like the big boom that, hey, look, I think I'm meant to do this a little bit more in a greater angle and not just sit behind a computer and, code. So I just kept on experimenting with different age groups. It was like having 4 jobs within a span of like 3 years, So I want to tell that people to keep experimenting and chasing your ikigai. That will ultimately give you purpose in life. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Just for the unversed, perhaps Ikigai is just something that you are good at, and that can perhaps benefit you financially. Like somebody can pay you for that X particular characteristic, and I think that's a very simple way of putting it. I would highly recommend that you pick up the book or you pick up the summary. It's a beautiful book to read, and it can be finished over a weekend. So yeah, I would encourage everybody who's viewing this to take a look at it and perhaps do that exercise, because it's never too late. Like a lot of people start feeling that, okay, they've reached a certain point in their life, and we are talking about young girls getting educated and getting on the right path, but I feel that it's never too late for anybody. You can always pick up new skills and chart your own new path, because if nothing else, it keeps you young. And keeps you right on the edge of your seat, that you're curious, you're learning something. Because I think there was something very beautiful I had read somewhere. It said that when you were a child, you seem to have the years used to stretch, right? And every experience was new, and that is the reason why time seemed so everything used to take long, and you could actually feel it passing. But as you become older, I think your experiences, because the newer experiences kind of get dwindled, and you're not learning anything new, so time seems to move really fast, and it does go by fast. Your life will go by fast. You might as well pick up some new skills or do something that you're curious about. I feel that a lot of people are afraid of judgment as well, and here, like I keep saying this, and I think I take every opportunity to say it, that that's BS, right? You should do you do whatever makes you happy. And what you said, that having that moment where you realize your reason for being, which is also another way of saying ikigai, that is very powerful. And I'm so glad that that you all of those, you said that you moved around a lot with several jobs, but that is okay, because all of it kind of ended up with you discovering why you're here and your core mission, which is very important, I feel.
You said it. I couldn't have put it more beautifully, Tarusha. And that's what, right? Sometimes you need that nudge from outside, because you're probably not reflecting enough. And when you see what people are coming to you for, that you're not offering, but they're coming to you for that. Maybe because you're really good at it, right? So I think that's a very good leading indicator that, hey, look, this is a skill that you need to pick up, like you were telling. It's about what the world needs, what you get paid for, and what makes you happy. So it's a holy union there. So absolutely. I'd like
I'm
to
so
know
glad.
more about your journey too, but maybe I should host you on a podcast.
Sure. We can
Seems
talk
so
about my journey
interesting.
all day long, and we can do that in a separate conversation. But this is very fascinating. Like, your journey is fascinating, and I feel the work that you're doing is something that I feel very strongly about. I think that, as I said earlier, I feel it should be about creating a level playing field. I do feel blockchain, like the internet, does create a level playing field for people. But then if you really want to change that gender ratio, if you really want more women to be in places where decisions are being made, or where they're building something more confidently, a lot more work needs to be done there. But just starting from where you are catching them young, that's a good place, and that can really, really change the way perhaps things for for the next generation, and for folks who are going to feel more confident, because um, they wouldn't feel that they don't belong, like, and I think that
Yeah.
is very, very important.
Wow,
So
you nailed it right there. Yeah. I just want to say one thing, the girls that we teach, again, we see them kind of having this ripple effect. There was one girl who actually went and taught 600 other people in the
wow.
emerging tech stack. So
Wow.
it doesn't just stop with like this 100 batch. These 100 are going and then like, putting out their work for that ripple effect. And this is how we kind of spread the momentum. Also, Tarusha, South Indian culture, right? Like somewhere, we do feel we have a very limited time to prove ourselves because girls get married easily. This is 2024. I work with girls from Charupalli village, Andhra Pradesh. And just the one girl was in a cohort, and every single day, like she's in a village, she goes, does internship in city, comes back and teaches 20 other girls. I'm like, why are you killing yourself with all of this? She's like, no, ma'am, if I don't teach them, they're going to get married soon in like the
Yeah.
next year. So it goes
Yeah.
beyond just the gender disparity, but also saving them from all these like abusive cycles because young
Right.
girls technically tend to get into this if you don't have a good job or you don't have that economic
Yeah, they marry you off. Right.
right. Yeah, so that's one cultural barrier also. I think we should be highlighting. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
it's just years and years of conditioning, right? Like a lot of, as I said, at times these girls, they don't even know that, okay, they might belong somewhere else, right? Because that is just something that they've heard over the
Yeah.
years. And just to break that barrier and for them to feel confident enough to move forward and go after these opportunities, that is also a challenge. I think there are, really well-educated women who still like really suffer from imposter syndrome and whatnot. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I have that on some days, and I have been around for like half my hair is gray, and I've been around for a long time. So even then, this kind of plagues me on some days, and I think it's a real problem, and somehow it comes down to how. I don't know how women are conditioned, and I don't think it's to do
Yeah.
with any kind of one culture. I think this is a global problem. Women
Yeah.
all over
Yeah.
kind of have this problem, even if they are not perhaps actively being able to relate to it. They're subconsciously on some level,
Yeah.
identifying. They're thinking that, okay, yeah, this is perhaps the way forward for them, and it is. See, there's no judgment. It can be a way forward for a lot of people, and that is okay. But it's okay to know that you have a choice. It's okay to just realize that as well, that maybe this is not for you, right? Everything is not tailor made, and one solution doesn't fit all. You can do your own thing, and that I think takes courage. And anybody who can perhaps amplify the courage in these individuals is important, is doing good work, I think.
Amazing. That gives very good mojo for the next cohort. But you said it like somewhere these girls, they have all the potential, but they just need that like extra nudge of
Yeah.
confidence, which somehow is not coming within their circle also because they want to experiment a lot. And we are like, look, don't take too many risks and, stay on this charted course. No one gets to success like that, right? The greater the risk, the greater the reward, as they say.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we give girls that extra platform to go experiment, tinker, innovate, and then you yourself will, come out with a path that you're proud of. So that's
Absolutely.
pretty much the vision and tools that we are giving to them. I think the technology part, like it keeps changing. We started with
Yeah.
Solidity. It's going to be, I'm hoping we have like a cybersecurity cohort next, which will, of course, like, auditing smart contracts to how to combat, AI agents on a DAO. All of that
Nice.
will be covered.
Very
So
relevant. It's
hopefully,
dynamic,
hopefully,
right? Yeah, it's all very dynamic, but that kind of changes. It's just I think the motivation behind doing something like this and what is your core mission that kind of matters. And here the core mission is very clear. You're out there to nudge these girls into perhaps a direction which they wouldn't have thought of, or perhaps they felt different about. So that is half your job, and that's wonderful. Now, I want to touch a little upon, you mentioned in your writings a lot about how your grandmother's influence has actually helped you, shape the vision that you're building on. And this is something that's a little close to my heart, because I think from day one, I was not a techie. Okay, not been like there was no organized technical training that I went through. I was a humanities student, so
Wow.
and I kind of fumbled my way and self-taught. So I've always been a generalist, but now obviously things over the years, when you're an entrepreneur bootstrapping, you have to learn everything. So I learned everything on the go, and that is that is that. But that's another story. My point was that when I started off, I used to think that okay, tech should be there for making things easy for people and making it more accessible. And I wanted to create tech that perhaps my parents and my grandparents can utilize without really feeling alienated or feeling left behind. That okay, this is stuff that we cannot really pick up on. Then when I read up about how your grandmother has had a great influence on you, I thought that I'll pick up this question and we could share perhaps anecdotes. So could you tell me a little more about that? How did she influence you?
Thank you. I'm actually getting goosebumps when you ask that, because firstly, I didn't think I wrote it. Did I actually write it in that? It's so ingrained in my mind. I probably must have written it in the form, but
Somewhere, I think we found it in our research somewhere. So I'm sure that,
oh my
we picked
God,
it up
yes.
from maybe your old statuses or something like that.
Yeah, great research, because it's very integral. So grandma actually completed 100 years in 2022. That's
Wow,
exactly when we
nice.
launched 100 Girls in Blockchain. So the 100 actually signifies the 100 years of existence of my grandma. And the thing is, right, it's the selfless aspect, her courage and bravery to selflessly feed the entire village. Like no matter who came, it's a hill station, and you see a
Okay.
lot of travelers coming from Bangalore, and actually there is a homestay. So the grandma
Okay.
converted her home into a homestay. So any
Okay.
travelers trekking, come even National Geographic Channel comes there every summer to shoot
Nice.
king cobra. I keep getting python, but yeah, king cobra. So you always came. There was food on the table, no questions asked. Any time she would be like awake and she was like feeding people generously. I was like, Grandma, you need to monetize this. Like, look at all the hard work you're putting in, right? She's like, no, like this is like God's work, and all the amazing philosophy that the generation above us and before them had. So I was like, look, there, I need to tribute her legacy eternally, and that's where blockchain came into place also. So she was in this activity of, like, how you upcycle old clothes to make a rug.
Right.
It's very
Right.
prevalent in a lot of homes. So that rug, I went and minted it on. That was the first item. I was like, we should probably start like a grandma store where all of grandma's rugs can be sold, and like it's technically like marketplace for her items. But
Wow.
the thing was, there was only like, 2 or 3 rugs that she was like, only these 2 or 3 are allowed, because everything else has an emotional factor. So you can't sell these. There was like,
Right.
grandma, we need the legacy on. So
Hmm.
yeah, I had collaborated with this amazing guy. Right now, I think he quit his startup. It's called Versify Labs. He's now an engineer at Meta. But he was
Okay.
amazing to get the marketplace. We didn't have any like minting fees issue. I remember it was really difficult at that point. It was probably 0.01 Ethereum or some crazy gas fee that I couldn't afford. So he made it like super free, and we minted grandma's rugs there. So there will be one article which says how grandma met Web3. That's when we minted like her rug, her hand quilted
Nice.
rug on, yeah, it's quilt, sorry, not rug.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a quilt. Yeah. So her warmth and love is always with the girls. But I think it also shows in the fact that every year that we keep churning out 100 girls coming into emergent tech, like, her legacy is there because that's honoring her 100 years. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, this is
Yeah.
beautiful. It's a wonderful story. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'm so glad I brought up this question because yeah, right, this is nice. It gives a very nice human connect. And I think that is what is important. What happens is, like, we were initially, when we started off the conversation, when we are talking to fellow builders, what happens is that we are in an echo chamber. We get very excited and we're talking about all of these ideas, but it doesn't make sense to people outside. And for the
Yeah.
mission and the core values to make sense for everybody else, I think there needs to be
Yeah.
that particular story that kind of would be relatable. So I think that's a relatable story that you have there. And this is wonderful. And I think to all the strong women who have raised us, this is
Yes.
probably an anecdote, and an ode to them that they've raised us to be who we are. And we probably, they might not have had those opportunities, but they carved the path for
Yeah.
us anyway. So I think more power to them, and more like I just feel immense gratitude. I think I've also seen a lot of strong
Yes.
women in my life. So my grandmother, both my grandmothers have equally, strong women in their own way. And yeah, very grateful to have lived and known them and
Yeah.
been raised by them.
It shows in you, Tarusha. It shows in you, like, whenever I look at you, I remember the first one was at one of the colleges in Hyderabad. There was like a DAPCO meetup, and I remember speaking to you from a projector. I was like, whoa, like she's a woman of substance. And, I kind of kept in touch with all your work and the amazing stuff you do. So it definitely shows to you. I want to take a moment and acknowledge that. So
Thank
the
you.
reflection of the grandma's strength shows.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You're very kind to say that. Thank you so much. And it's so kind of you to remember that, we spoke then. But wonderful. This has been lovely as a conversation, but, I am running out of time and I have so many more
So
questions to ask you. Like, I'll
we
have to
can
do
do,
a
we can do
fab
a
job
part
of
two.
editing this. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying we can do a part two, and I swear the editing really takes every energy cell out of you. Um, Luckily, there are some tools that are helpful, with
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. No, what we can perhaps look at doing is we can get you on the podcast next, which is just the audio version. So and then we
Okay.
can touch upon all the great work that you're doing there as well. But yeah, I would love to touch upon a few more things that I have
Yes.
here. Can you tell us a little about the business model? And the next question is to do with RWA, basically, and that we can also talk about. But I would love to know about the business model first of 100 Girls in Blockchain and how you are
And,
monetizing this.
absolutely. So, Tarusha, firstly, we are on a break, for this year. Like we just completed a cohort, and so far it's been a lot of, skill to earn mechanisms, right? Like I
Right.
was saying, builders, jobbers, our
Hmm.
our basic incentive is to get all these three players on board
Hmm.
into this DAO, which will be automated with smart contracts. But that's still a long way to go. Like I was saying, we work with girls from Charupalli village to,
Right.
some of these girls come from shelter homes who don't even have devices.
Right.
So what we're doing is technically um, the corporates who actually want their I don't want to say corporates, but it's technically these protocols who are launching these services or the latest chain that they want to roll out, right? So we
Hmm.
come and we help those chains to proliferate their product into the masses. So that's
Understood.
how we get approached. We get grants to do this. It's technically run by grants at the moment.
Okay.
So, our first one was through Ethereum Foundation, and that grant technically helped us run the 100 girls cohort. And then once we get the girls out of the batch, right, these girls again come in and teach the next batch. So the trainer fee is saved that way. So the model is technically like, the protocols come, they sponsor us, and we run the cohorts. But what we want to go do further is more on the skill verifiable credentials part. So
Right.
we technically partner with colleges who, say they have all these crazy number of hackathons and competitions to crack. There is no one single digital wallet which is holding all of these credibility of the student, right? It's all scattered, all silos.
Right.
No one even knows if this GitHub is the right one, right? Like you probably is just copy pasted the code. So a lot of the activities related to the students, right from your coding hackathons to internships, all of these will be on a digital verifiable wallet, and those services that will be provided to the college will be charged based on how many number of credentials they need, and of course, like what are the courses they need. So not only are we making these students ready for the future of tomorrow, but also the college becomes like a DAO itself, where everything is self-organizing and self-sustainable. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's pretty much the two boxes. Yeah. But we yet to implement this, Tarusha. It's all in bits and pieces at the moment. I had a country move, and just like settling down took a lot of time. So, and then I had to, of course, see how the world of tech convergence, right? AI and blockchain are coming together. So we were like, whatever projects are building, scaling trust, we plug in our blockchain solutions there. Whatever needs to scale Intel, we are plugging in AI, and we're seeing how to bring them both together. So this all of 1 year was research. Yeah.
Okay. Nice, wonderful. Where, after this, we can talk a little about how I can perhaps help you out with this in whatever capacity that I can. This sounds, it's a work in progress, but, all of us are in work in progress. It's okay. As long as, you have the mission clear and you're taking active steps. What is perhaps the next thing, and this is like my penultimate question before we kind of wrap up with the last question, what is like the next big thing that you guys are looking forward to when it comes to this particular initiative of getting more girls in the workforce vis-a-vis Web3?
Yeah, the amazing question, right? So for girls to come into Web3, it's about setting up campus ambassadors right in the college, where the girl who's probably had a track record, and she's probably built like like a climate safety or any kind of app which can be taken to Web3. Like we assess these kind of solutions, and that particular campus ambassador then starts running 100 girls in their own college. So it's technically going to be, it's going to be that TEDx model as we see. So we appoint one campus ambassador, and then the momentum starts. So we plan to start with colleges in Mumbai and Bangalore. That way, we do have some partnership, through the Stanford Seed Network, which their mission aligns, because their mission is about eradicating poverty with education, and our mission is building skill equity. So our model can be, plug and played into tier 1 to rural, like, all kinds of areas. And the best part is they don't need to come and build on some fancy optimism or ZK rollups, right? It can be just understanding the basics of Solidity programming and getting to the next level, because that same skill, whether they're learning JavaScript or Python in colleges, and if you're able to transition to Solidity, you're able to get like a 6-figure job. So why not just take that one step? So we have these Solidity boot camps that we will be doing more often through these college ambassadors. And then again, like, the girls who will be picked up there will be given the projects within the RWS space, because we do have a network of, these Web3 founders who are trailblazing from agro commodity tokenization to real estate tokenization. So that will be the penultimate. Yeah. But really happy about this TEDx model that we bring to 100 girls.
Right. And it's lovely that both your initiatives are kind of merging, and converging into something greater. And I think they're kind of complementary to each other.
Absolutely. And it's also because it's, we're trying to bring the tech and cost barriers down, Tarusha. If you know, these kind of courses are probably anywhere from 1 lakh, right, out in the market. So just our girls teaching the next batch, that peer-to-peer learning itself gives you a lot of confidence in life.
Hmm.
That and plus we are building a skill pipeline for our next projects, so we don't need to go look out and hire. I think both of us know in this space how much there is a crunch for actual talent. So
Right.
I think we're just solving that for ourselves now. So that's pretty much the arsenal of Web3 talent that we're building that gets plugged into these RWA projects.
Awesome. That's brilliant. I think, you're creating a pipeline for yourself, nothing like that. So nothing like solving a problem that you're facing on your own. And, if nobody, for you to be able to get that initial credibility for your platform, nobody
Yeah.
is better as a customer than your own self as your first customer. So I think that's wonderful. So now, Priyanka, this has been a lovely chat, but we are totally out of time. And I would love to wrap this up. Ask this question to everybody who comes on the audio podcast or on the video podcast. You made a leap, right, from cybersecurity into Web3. What would be your suggestion to somebody perhaps who's facing the same dilemma or sitting on the fence for them to be able to start living on blockchain truly?
Oh, fascinating question. I made that hop, and I'm so glad that happened. But I was able to identify what part of blockchain really spoke to me, because
Hmm.
it really feels like, blockchain is several things to several people. For
Right.
me, it was building skill equity with trust in the economy, and at a time where people are forging certificates, people are forging skills and getting into the workspace. It just felt like this is the only way out for me. So I just want folks out there listening to see what speaks to your passion. If it's agriculture, like, see how you can get into traceability mechanics of on the
Hmm.
blockchain. If it's art, like, see how you can get into the latest and greatest art DAOs, right? So ArtFi is one of them. And then if it's, of course, real estate, like, you see how you can integrate your real-time data with oracles and actually come onto the chain. So it's just about finding what in the blockchain ecosystem speaks to your passion, pick that, build very well upon it, and then you can the wings are there for you to, like, rise on the horizons. So that's pretty much what I want to wrap up with, Arusha. Hope that helped. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, no, that's wonderful advice to give, right? You should really begin from what brings you joy and what really interests you and what is a problem that you think you can solve. Again, going back to the principles of Ikigai, I think that's a wonderful way to wrap up this particular episode, Priyanka. Any last words before we actually wrap this up and bring this to a close?
Right. I think I definitely want to pull in my grandma again. Like Mark Cuban says, Web3 is waiting for its grandma moment. And I luckily found my grandma moment to come on chain. But if there is something that piques your curiosity, chase it. Everybody thinks, hey, look, Web3 wale zyada paise banate hai, and, like, you want to make more money, you come into Web3. If you're adding value, I'm pretty sure the money aspect is going to solve for itself.
Yeah.
So just keep chasing your curiosity and start building. The value automatically will get converted into, I want to say, Ethereum. So there we go. Like, long live Ethereum, and hopefully the future is decentralized and it's not too far away.
Absolutely. Wonderful words to end this on. So I'll stop the recording now, but we are sure to get you for another episode. Thank you so much, Priyanka,
Uh,
for having this chat with us.
Such a delight, Tarusha. And I would love to learn more of your journey as well. So I'm looking forward to that chat. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much.